Now the next step is once you've gotten to this point here, we want to start actually bringing this into a rendering tool. One additional thing you're going to need to download for this to work is the Live Sync for Rhino plugin. So you need to both have D5, which is just the basic rendering tool, but you also need to have the Live Sync tool as well. And that allows you to have, you see in Rhino, this D5 Live Sync button, and that allows you to actually sync this model into D5. So I'm going to click on this Connect to D5 render button. I'm going to X out of this beginner's guide window there. So why we're using D5? It's because it allows you, you see how when I navigate Rhino, the model in D5 matches the exact perspective and field of view. That is why we're using this tool, is because in the past, when I used Twinmotion, it didn't allow you to do that. D5 is similar to Twinmotion, similar to Enscape, and that is a GPU rendering tool. So as long as you have a powerful computer with a good NVIDIA graphics card, it should run good. So the way this works is this is basically just, if I zoom into this little sign here and if you move that sign, let's just move it to the right, you see that it updates the model in D5. Also, what you have is on the right-hand side, there is this environment button right there. So I click on that, and then you'll see the sun and sky option there. So it's worth it to think about the lighting condition of your project. So you can see that this little orbit here allows you to change the lighting condition of this. Then there's also a north offset here to allows you to adjust the direction of the shadow. There's a bunch of other tools here, cloud, fog, all that stuff. There's one option here called precipitation. If you check this box, you see it's in the bottom right, and it's kind of cool. It makes everything sort of look like it's wet, kind of creates a shiny effect to that. And then the other thing that's worth doing as well, when you create a new model, it usually creates like a terrain base. I have already deleted it, and you're going to want to delete it too. So I apologize, I can't show you that. But what you will see is that in the layer panel on this side, there is also going to be like a terrain layer. You just need to delete that. The next thing is assets. So we all know that the part of the reasons why we have these rendering tools is that you can put in things like trees, rocks, plant matter, all those things. So in the upper left side of D5, there is this assets button. I'll click on that. And then this brings up a window that has materials and models. What you are able to do is you can go to this model button on the side there, and you should see plant models, animal models, character models. One note I will say is that the plants generally are suited for urban models. So what you do is you pick a model, let's say this one right here, you click on it, and what we'll do is we'll download that model, and just click on it again, and then it should allow you to just place it somewhere on the site. And obviously you look at this and you go like the scale is off. So you're going to want to click on that object there. And then in size right here, just begin to scale it down. You see how like I just click on Z and just like click and slide over to the right. I'm going to delete that for now. One thing I thought was pretty cool in D5 is this scatter button right here. So I'll click on scatter right here. What this does is it finds a surface that you've modeled in Rhino and it populates it with, say, for instance, a specific planting type. So it's kind of cool. And so the way that works is that in Rhino is that if you have a material associated with a specific layer, and as long as that material is different, you can basically populate that surface with a material. So what I mean by this is that in ground, I actually have two grounds. There's a ground 2 and a ground 1. You see how basically this is one surface, this is one surface, and this is one surface, because I want to populate a ground cover plant on just these perimeter surfaces here that I've selected, but not on this one here because that's below this elevated deck. So that when you go into D5, you can say, for instance, choose, let's say, grassland, for instance. So I'll click on this. Then you see what happens is that in D5, you can hover over those surfaces that you've already set in Rhino. And so I'll click on this one right here, and then it says create scatter area. So I'll just choose create, and then just give it a second. You see it's thinking about it on the upper right window there. It's thinking about it. And so that is done. Now you can close out of that. And so it's a nice way to quickly populate dense masses of vegetation. Let's say ground cover floor of the forest. It's a nice way to quickly get that. And I don't think it's that distracting. Sometimes 3D modeling, like it looks weird, but this one is fairly subdued. So I don't mind it that much. So it's something that maybe you can play with if you're working in such a condition. And then one thing you can do is if you click on the scatter layer there, you see some options come up on the right-hand side there. has a distribution of plants. You can mess with those if you like. One thing that you can play with is this density slider. So if I slide this to the left, you see how it should begin to loosen the density a bit. And then in transformations, if I expand that, you can adjust the scaling of everything. So click on that and just scale it back so that the plant matter is not so high and dense. This is one instance where if you have an external monitor, it helps. Also, one thing you can do in D5, if you go into this menu here, you can hide some of the sidebars. So window, hide left sidebar, like maybe you don't need to see that. And again, just makes it so you have a little bit more room there. So what you want to do is you're going to pick, obviously, the angle and the view that you're going to want to use. Again, in D5, it matches whatever view you have in Rhino, including plan views and elevation views. So this is kind of interesting. So if you double click out of here and you go to, say, for instance, a top view here, you see how that panning around the top view, it actually matches that. Or if I go into the front view here, it actually matches that. We're not going to do elevations or plans for this exercise, but just one thing that to note is that, this is super powerful in the sense that it does allow you to match exactly the view. Find an angle that you're going to want to use. So once you have a view you like, you're going to want to basically, let me just do as a demo. Let's say, you want to do a view like this. You're going to want to go in Rhino, click on the name views tab there, and then choose save as, then just call that view 3 or whatever view number you're working on, then click OK, and then just save your Rhino file. This looks good. I'm ready to render this. So what we'll do is we'll go into this button right here, this little camera that says image. So choose that. So click on this here and you see that it's going to go into this render mode here. And on the bottom here, you're going to see all these options. The option that you're going to want to adjust is right here where it says custom. What you want to do is you want to unlink it. So click it so that this link has a cross to that. And this allows you to set the actual resolution of the image. And so if you want to do a rendering at 150 DPI, you're going to do 36 times 150. And that gives you 5,400 pixels in one direction. So I'll put in 54 in this direction. And then 24 inches, 24 times 150 is 3,600. So we'll put in 36. You can sort of see a safe frame is created that shows the actual area that's going to render. And if that all looks good, then you're ready to render this out. I highly encourage everyone to do at least 150 DPI. That is my bare minimum. That will look fine printed. If you go up to 200 or 300 DPI, that's even better. And what you're going to want to do is expand the window so that you see this channel button there, and then expand that, and then check Sky Mask AO, which stands for Ambient Occlusion, and Material ID. Then that is all you need to do. And then you just basically click on this render button right here that looks like a little circle pinwheel thing. Click on that. And you're going to want to save it as a PNG. Then just choose save. What you should see is a window pop up that says image rendering in progress. It just finished. That took about 2 minutes, which is nice. One thing I'm going to say, don't push, is this AI post-processing button. You may be tempted to look at the AI tools yet. Don't be tempted to use that. Okay, so I'm going to open the folder and take a look at these outputs that have just come out. The actual render itself, you'll see that because we output it at a very high resolution, it's nice and sharp. There is this ambient occlusion layer. Material ID. And so you can use this in Photoshop. And then this last one is a Sky Mask layer. So I'm open Photoshop. And so this is the rendering file that you should see in the demo folder. I'm going to place all those other helper layers in here as well. So I'll go to File, Place Embedded in Photoshop, and then just pick the AO layer, Material layer, Sky Mask. Check that. So you have all these layers in here. And then I think this is a technique you can try, which is to use this AO layer here as a way to remove detail in areas that you don't want us to focus on. So what I will do is I will take this base render here. I'm going to hit Control G to group it, and then put a mask on top of that group. And then I'm going to take that mask, I'm going to invert it like that. So just Control I to invert it. Then what I'll do is I'll take this AO layer and I'll move it behind. So we move that behind, and then use that mask and a brush, and then just use a white brush. You see what I'm doing now is I'm just using that to bring out detail in the parts of the rendering that I want to focus on around here. But what I created here, and this is just this will be the end of the tutorial, is basically me taking that image that I worked on, placing it in InDesign, and then I haven't put the annotations on there, but you can imagine like working on that a bit just to label everything. And this is sort of what we're going for with this project, is a very simple but immersive image that shows a design concept, modeled beautifully, annotated beautifully. All right, that's it. This is my last GIF for you all. Let me see if you see my camera, you can see this is Luda. Luda has spent time with us today. So Luda, so this is the benefit of Zoom classes, is that cats make cameos.